Memorial Day weekend. It is not always the easiest Sunday of the year. A lot of people taking a break, out of town.
A lot.
But when you talk about live your legacy, wow, what a legacy.
Yeah.
Memorial Day.
Absolutely. You know, sometimes people get it confused with Veterans Day, but really that Memorial Day is when we memorialize and remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And talk about legacy, the legacy that they leave behind.
What a legacy. Thank you for joining us again today on Woodlawn Talks. Woodlawn Talks is growing, and we are thankful that you are a part of that audience, that family. And we want to leave something for you every single week that can challenge you, push you, and get you prepared to make this your best day yet. Good word on Sunday, Pastor Cliff. I love the thought as it pertains to the Live Your Legacy series.
Yeah.
Relive for our audience, those maybe that didn't hear the word.
Sure.
I love the theme, the legacy of what's left.
Yeah. Oftentimes when we consider legacy, it's always about build, what we build. But I think that there is a lot of great power in what is not necessarily built, but what is left behind as it pertains to legacy. But I think the simple phrase that we need to understand is that legacy and embracing legacy really begins with a simple yes. You talked about it a week ago, going all in. That's that idea of just surrendering and saying yes. And so when we consider that, when you go to the Old Testament, the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 6, we find the story where David and these men are moving the Ark of the Covenant. And they're not really doing it God's way, but they've got it being pulled by ox. And it kind of gets a little shaky along the way. And one of the men just trying to do what
we all would have done.
Yeah, exactly. He just happened to be the one that did the wrong thing, even though in the moment it felt like the right thing, right? Reaches out and tries to steady it. And in doing so, he's immediately struck down dead. And I can imagine in that moment that everyone that was near the Ark of the Covenant probably took a few steps back. Like, okay, we knew this thing was legit, but yeah.
Didn't realize it had that much power or significance.
And so everyone, takes a step back. In that moment, Scripture even tells us that David himself was afraid. And so this is a powerful, mighty man of God, but he realizes the power of that moment. And Scripture tells us in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 10, that I'm just going to read the Scripture here. It said, "So David would not move the ark of the Lord with him into the city of David." He had so much fear. He said, I'm good.
Yeah.
But he leaves it behind. It's left behind. And he takes it aside into the house of a man by the name of Obed-Edom. Not a man that we hear a lot about in Scripture, right? But the Bible tells us the ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite for 3 months. And so while everyone is so afraid of it and they leave it behind, it just goes to the home of this obscure, kind of man that we don't know a whole lot about. But the Bible leaves us with this thought. It says, "And the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household."
Yeah. When others stepped back, he stepped in.
He stepped in. I think there's just, there's great revelation when we understand that we don't have to have the name, we don't have to have the lineage. Oftentimes, all God is looking for is us being willing to step in to the opportunity that he's placed in front of us. And when you consider, the deep waters that God has available, like in the Word, we are encouraged and challenged to pursue after spiritual gifts. And sometimes I think when we consider those things, we kind of take a step back, like, I don't know about that. But I think as we dive in, if we have that same spirit of Obed-Edom, like, okay, God, if it's here and it's available, I'm willing. There's a yes in my spirit. I think great things happen.
Yeah, he didn't chase it.
No, no,
He
no,
just
no.
made space for it.
That's exactly right.
And that goes back even to the podcast last week. He had a yes
That's right.
in his spirit. So many times, and I tell young adults this, I tell young people this. If you'll have a yes in your spirit,
Yeah.
God will keep opening doors for you.
I would say this, like, if somebody's like, I want to build a legacy. How do I build a legacy? It starts with just saying yes to God. Whatever open door he's got in front of
Yeah.
you, yes.
No door's too small,
Yeah.
no door's too large. It's just a yes. And if you'll keep walking through those doors, he will never not have an open door in front of you.
I can't imagine that Obed-Edom in that moment thought, okay, if I make room for the ark, I'm going to get all these blessings. I don't think it was from a selfish, standpoint that he embraced the ark of God. But I think it was just from him having that simple yes. And in doing so, for 3 months, blessings flowed to not only him, but his entire house.
Yeah. Let's go back to Obed-Edom.
Yeah.
Because not a famous person.
That's right.
Not someone we read about a ton in Scripture. He was just faithful.
He was faithful. I think that's all that God is looking for. He's not looking for all stars. He's just looking for faithful people.
Yeah, he's not looking for the famous. He's looking for the faithful.
I think all of us have been mentored, challenged by people who were probably not the famous people, but on a personal level, faithful people in our lives. Sunday school teachers.
Oh, man. Glenda Gibson, Neil Weatherford,
Yeah.
Bonnie Kirkpatrick. I served with her when I was in student ministry. And she bought a van with her own money to be able to transport kids from her community to church.
Yeah.
The most unsafe van in the history of vans. No seats. She put metal folding chairs in it.
Wow.
And I'll tell you today, there hasn't been a death in our church other than our bishop that affected me as much as Bonnie Kirkpatrick because of the legacy.
Just a faithful
Oh,
lady.
she lived it every single week. 35 minutes from church. Never missed. Never asked for gas money. Transported kids on a fixed income. If she's by me on Judgment Day, I'm going back a few slots. Like I don't want to be judged according to Bonnie Kirkpatrick. Wow.
But there was just that yes in her spirit.
Yeah.
And she may not have left this earth a millionaire,
She didn't. Far from it.
but I can promise you on that day, she's going to hear those words, well done, now good and
Faithful
servant.
Okay, so Obed-Edom welcomed it into his home.
And God blesses him, and then the ironic thing is David sees the blessings that are flowing, and so David's like, okay, let me go get this ark back now, But Scripture tells us even in First Chronicles, and I'll move through this quickly here. They're talking about the lineage of Obed-Edom, right? It goes on and on and on, and it says phrases like this: "For God blessed him." Then it goes down to the next generation. They were men of great ability. They were able men. They were able men with strength for the work. 62 of Obed-Edom. And so his private yes in that one moment produces 62 able men strong for the work. Blessing after blessing after blessing. It was a domino effect in his world.
Yeah. And so if you're listening to this podcast, watching this podcast today, no doubt you have people under your leadership, whether that's parent, grandparent, leader in the church.
Yeah.
I want you to know today your faithfulness will produce a generation that carries on that legacy.
That's right.
You may not even see it. I was talking to Clay and Jody, our friends, this past weekend, and they've been struggling in a church plan, and it hadn't got off the ground as fast as they wanted it to, and that sort of thing. And I just encourage them, like, you have no idea the seed that you're planting in that community with those families, and it is seed that will produce a harvest one day.
His word will never return void.
Yeah. You said, Cliff, I love this. Don't just raise children, raise carriers.
Yeah.
Expound on that.
Yeah, I think our mission, and I'm in the throes of it right now myself, but our mission as parents or grandparents, whoever it might be, in the body isn't just to give them something, but to be able to place something in their spirit that they're carrying forward to go to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, that domino effect. And I think you and I both, I mean, we could say with great confidence today that we would not be here had it not been for grandparents, parents, or even others beyond that.
Oh,
That they paved the way. Like we wouldn't be sitting in these chairs right now had it not been for them. Some of them maybe more all stars, if you will, but oftentimes just faithful people.
last question of the day. This was the question of your message.
Yeah.
What will you do with
Yeah.
what's left?
Yeah. You know, I think it comes down to a decision. Will I kind of fall back into the crowd? As like, I mean, let's go back to the story again. Everyone starts moving. Everyone's fearful. Everyone moves away from the ark, but one man embraces it. And so, while it's left behind and everybody else goes a million different directions, one man made room for the presence of God. And so, I think God's not asking you to carry everything. He's just asking you to carry what's left. And what was left in that moment was just the ark. And in doing so, generational blessings flowed from that.
Yeah. And there's, you've had loss,
Absolutely.
you've had struggle, you've had heartache, and you probably look at what you have left right now, and you may think, I don't have anything to pass on. I want you to know that if you'll pick it up today,
Yeah.
He is the God of what's left. And your legacy can be lived out with what, it may be little, but with what has been left to you.
I'll never forget, Pastor, this is years ago, in a season of our lives, it was a rough season, and I picked up this book by Danny Hood. I think it was called Desperation, Spiritual Pathway to God, I believe is what the tagline was on it. But he told the story of this man that had a piece of property, home, beautiful setup, but a tornado came through and destroyed everything, like just total devastation, total loss. And this man was surveying all of it, after the storm had came through. And everyone was, patting him on the back saying, man, we're so sorry, we're so sorry. And he said, hey, in this moment, I had to make a decision. Do I, just surrender to all the sorrow in my life and the devastation, or do I build with what's left? And he literally took all the trees that had been knocked down on his property, and he used those to build a massive log cabin. And literally he used the scraps and everything that was left to build up something beautiful. And I remember reading that story in that book, and I thought, you know what? That's got to be the posture of every Christian. When adversity comes, I'm going to take what's left, and I'm going to allow God to build something beautiful.
That's so powerful. Remember that today. You have it in you. There's something left in you that can be built upon. And the next generation that receives the legacy that you lived will take it further than you. I think that's what was so special about even our bishop.
Yeah.
Like he was able to celebrate what the next generation could build upon that he lived.
Yeah.
And thankfully he got to see some of that before he went to glory. But true leaders, they understand that it's not about them.
Yeah.
It's about what comes after them. Thank you for joining us today. Live your legacy, and you have something left. I challenge you today. I encourage you today. Take what's left and live it out for God's kingdom. You don't want to miss next week. Pastor Aaron Soto will be in studio. He's my pastor, and I'm excited to have him. He's going to be preaching on family. He'll be speaking to family in this podcast. Go ahead, subscribe today. Make this a part of your journey, and may this be your best day yet.